Imagine standing in a ballroom packed with family and friends, only to hear applause as your $150,000 inheritance is handed to your stepbrother and your own signature forged right before your eyes. Hi, I'm Raina Hollis. I watched my father, my stepmother, and half the city celebrate my sacrifice, but I never gave up a single dollar. I'm not just the daughter they tried to erase. I'm the lawyer they never saw coming. What would you do if the people you trusted most robbed you in public and expected you to smile for the cameras? Tell me in the comments. Have you ever been betrayed by your own family? What did you do next? Let me show you how a quiet daughter turned their game into the ultimate courtroom showdown. Let's all applaud Raina for her selfless act, giving up her inheritance so Chase can pursue his dreams. I froze mid-breath. The ballroom inside my father's Beacon Hill estate fell into a reverent hush, then erupted into scattered applause. Chandeliers flickered overhead, casting golden light over faces I hadn't seen since childhood. Relatives, old neighbors, even a local news anchor. They all looked at me with soft smiles, nods of admiration, like I just pledged my kidney to a stranger. I hadn't. Just an hour ago, I was in the powder room, rehearsing a short, personal tribute to my mother for this remembrance gala Veronica insisted on. My mother hated galas. She preferred diner booths and handwritten letters. That's why I had one tucked in my purse, the last one she gave me, scrawled in weak ink just days before she slipped away. I'll finish law school. I'll protect what's ours, I'd whispered over her hospice bed. And now here I stood, applauded for a betrayal I never committed. Daniel, no, my father, stepped forward on stage, microphone in hand, basking in the gratitude of strangers. He was dressed in a tailored navy tuxedo, widow's grief airbrushed into a brand new Rolex. Raina has always been the quiet strength of this family, he continued. And when her stepbrother Chase needed a leg up for medical school, she did what family does. She sacrificed. I opened my mouth, stepped forward. My mic cut out. Static. Then silence. A technician rushed upstage, fiddling with the wireless pack. Just interference, someone mumbled. That's when the projector began to roll. Images of Chase flooded the screen. Him in a white coat, stethoscope around his neck, standing on a podium with a degree I'd never seen. To our future Dr. Millard, the slideshow read. A swelling piano track underscored every shot. Someone sniffled in the front row. My palms clenched. I hadn't even known Chase graduated. The last I'd heard, he was still flunking organic chem. Then came the moment that shattered whatever illusion remained. Veronica glided on stage, wearing a pearl choker and her signature pity smile. And now, to complete this beautiful night, she said sweetly, we'd like to formalize Raina's gift. She snapped her fingers. A man in a gray suit stepped forward. Stephen Trask, family attorney, he announced. I'm here to witness the public acknowledgement of Miss Raina Hollis's formal withdrawal from Serena Hollis's estate, as previously agreed and documented. He held up a folder. My name was printed in bold at the top. My signature was at the bottom. I hadn't signed a damn thing. A ripple moved through the crowd. Veronica placed her hand on my shoulder like I was a debutante receiving a scholarship. She's always been so giving, she cooed. Raina's going to be a lawyer, Daniel added proudly. She doesn't need the money. Chase does. I stepped back. My spine stiffened, my vision sharpening like ice. I scanned the room. Rows of gleaming eyes, people clapping for a lie. I looked at Chase, smug in his rented tux, giving me a pathetic nod of thanks. A little girl, his niece maybe, tugged his sleeve and said, "Tell her thank you, Daddy, for your doctor school." He didn't correct her. I reached for the letter in my purse. "Excuse me," I said, stepping forward. Veronica tried to intercept me. I sidestepped her. This is the last letter my mother wrote me, I said, holding it up. It reads, and I quote, "To Raina, all that I leave behind is yours. You earned it." Gasps. A voice in the crowd whispered, "Didn't she study estate law?" Another added, "Why would a lawyer give up inheritance?" I turned to Stephen Trask. That document? A fake. A damn good one, but not mine. I yanked the folder from his hand, flipped to the signature page. This isn't even my pen. I use a fountain pen. My strokes are never looped. Trask's face went pale. Veronica snapped. This isn't the place. No. I cut her off. This is exactly the place. You wanted an audience. I took the folder, walked to the center of the stage. So, let's give them a show. I held it up, then tore it straight down the middle. Flashbulbs burst like fireworks. Phones were already recording. I turned to the audience. To everyone clapping, save that applause for court. Dead silence. Daniel stepped forward, stammering. Raina, let's discuss this. Don't make a scene. You made the scene, Dad. I'm just rewriting the script. I stepped off stage. Every step felt like thunder. As I passed Veronica, her smile broke for the first time. Chase's eyes widened. He leaned in to whisper to her, voice shaking. She wasn't supposed to fight. Outside, the air was colder than I remembered. I pulled out my phone and typed a message. Jennifer, activate everything. Operation Phoenix starts tonight. A reply came instantly. Ready. I've waited for this. I looked back at the glowing mansion, my father's pride and Veronica's kingdom. Then I turned toward war. They forged my name, erased my mother's will, and thought I would notice? Let's show them what a Hollis does when cornered. I stared at my laptop screen, the cursor blinking over my mother's account login. Her credentials, memorized from a laminated index card she kept taped behind her bedroom mirror, hadn't changed. Click. Access granted. My mother's investment account was still active. My breath caught. The last transaction was dated just 3 weeks before her death. $5,000 transferred to an account labeled C. Millard. Monthly withdrawals starting 6 months ago. Always the same amount. Always to the same recipient. My chest tightened. My fingers, though, stayed steady. I reached for the small wooden box on my desk. Inside was the pen my mother gave me when I passed the bar and a worn leather notebook. On the front cover, written in her looping script, "My legacy belongs to Raina." That night, I didn't sleep. The walls of my apartment turned into a war room. Printouts, sticky notes, highlighted timelines. A corkboard displayed account names and transaction paths like a true crime investigation. In the center was a photo of Mom in her favorite yellow scarf. She'd asked me once in her final week, "You'll fight smart, won't you?" "Always," I'd whispered back. The next morning, I met Jennifer Chun at our usual quiet cafe tucked between 2 brick buildings in Cambridge. She arrived in a blazer and dark jeans, the kind of professional casual that said she knew exactly who she was and who she could destroy. I handed her a folder. She flipped through slowly. Account logs, copies of bank statements, scanned documents with my forged signature, and the power of attorney that had supposedly transferred legal control to Veronica. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "This document's a crime scene," she said. I nodded. Veronica filed it 2 days before Mom entered hospice. "She was on a morphine drip by then," Jennifer muttered, flipping to the medical chart I'd printed. "Serena was not competent to sign. That much is clear. And the witness?" I tapped the signature line. Her bridge partner and Veronica's golf buddy. Jennifer sighed, leaning back. "This isn't just elder abuse, Raina. It's a damn blueprint of it." I walked into First Atlantic Bank's Back Bay branch at 3:10 p.m., wearing a slate gray blazer and a practiced smile. The manager, Mr. Rourke, looked nervous when I introduced myself and mentioned I was just reviewing some estate documentation inconsistencies. I asked if I could clarify a few past withdrawals. He fidgeted. I mean, sure. It's just, well, Ms. Hollis gave authority to Mrs. Veronica Hollis. I pulled out the printed copy. This and signed photocopy? No notary. No original. Filed by fax. That's what authorized months of withdrawals. He cleared his throat. Well, in combination with Chase Millard's co-signature, he provided a university ID. Which university? I asked. Silence. Right, I said, clicking my pen. The recorder in my pocket blinked red. I'll be sending this transcript to our legal team. Thank you for your time. That night, surrounded by open books and glowing monitors, I found it. A fax receipt. It was buried in a batch of old estate documents. 1 page. A simple redirect for life insurance beneficiary, sent from a machine registered to Veronica Hollis's private attorney. The updated beneficiary? Chase Millard. The signature? Mine. Except it wasn't. It slanted the wrong way. The H in Hollis looked like it had been lifted from a handwriting template. I dropped my pen, and then I started printing, document after document. I marked each one with a red Sharpie. Forgery. No notary. Illegally processed. Conflict of interest. I filled a thick envelope and labeled it in bold block letters. Preliminary evidence packet for criminal investigation. Then I opened a secure video line. Daniel answered on the third ring, in a silk robe, wine glass in hand. Hi, Dad, I said. I found something interesting. You'll be receiving a packet tomorrow. Feel free to read it with your lawyer or your priest. His face drained of color. I hung up. The next morning, I went for a run along the Charles River. My phone buzzed nonstop. I ignored most of it, but Jennifer's message stopped me cold. Hollis, it's official. Documents submitted. Let's go to war. When I got home, I found my apartment bathed in warm morning light, but I didn't feel peace. Just clarity. Then, as if on cue, Veronica's phone slammed into the marble floor of her kitchen. The email from First Atlantic Bank glowed on her screen. Your authority over Serena Hollis's account is now under review. Chase poked his head in, hair messy, half awake. Is something wrong? He asked. Veronica's face twisted. She's coming for us. She gripped the edge of the table, breath shallow. That girl, she's not the same anymore. And she was right. You're not a med student, Chase. You're a fraud in a lab coat bought off Etsy. That line wasn't for effect. It was the truth. 2 days after the bank investigation began, I requested official academic records from the university Chase supposedly attended. The registrar's office sent back a polite 1-page confirmation. There was no Chase Millard enrolled in any medical program. Not now. Not ever. A second email followed minutes later. According to archived records, Chase had attended for 1 semester. He failed 2 core classes, withdrew from another, then quietly disappeared from the system. His family never knew. Veronica had spun a perfect illusion. Jennifer whistled when she read the file. Wow. So no med school, just med scam 101. Let's go deeper, I said. That night, we combed through Chase's financial activity. We followed the paper trail like breadcrumbs soaked in gasoline. The money, my mother's money, hadn't gone toward tuition or textbooks. It had been drained into crypto exchanges, transferred into anonymous wallets, paid out to sketchy investment mentors. Used to book Airbnbs in Vegas, wire fees for online poker sites, and one particularly charming charge: luxury lifestyle coaching, $7,500. By morning, we'd mapped over $60,000 in vanished funds. I leaned over the digital board and said aloud, more to myself than to Jennifer, "He used my mother's death to fund a fantasy." Jennifer looked up. "What's the plan?" "We smoke him out. In public." 1 week later, I walked into a rooftop bar in the South End, dressed like a slightly naive biotech investor with money to spare. The seminar flyer I'd found on a crypto forum promised an exclusive healthcare tech investment opportunity led by Harvard-trained Dr. Chase Millard. It was laughable, but it drew a crowd. There he was, Chase in a pressed white coat over an open-collar shirt, standing under string lights, speaking into a headset mic like he was headlining TEDxCon Man. "Healthcare is the next blockchain frontier," he said smoothly. "And thanks to my background in medicine, I've identified low-risk, high-yield partnerships across the sector." I pressed record on my phone. He dropped terms like Harvard credentials, patient-first models, venture funding compliance. It was all nonsense. Technically impressive nonsense, but fiction, start to finish. The audience, mostly wealthy retirees and early crypto adopters, nodded along. One man handed Chase a check for 10 grand on the spot. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't a con in the shadows. This was full-on daylight theft, wearing cologne and designer shoes. 3 days later, Chase showed up to a family brunch that Veronica insisted on hosting at the country club. Everyone was there. The aunts. The second cousins. Daniel, in his usual detached fog. Veronica, dressed like she was chairing a board meeting. Chase stood to toast. "I just wanted to say," he turned toward me, "to Raina, who gave up her inheritance so I could chase my dreams. I'll make the family proud." There was applause. My stomach turned. I stood up. "Let's not pretend," I said, holding up my phone. "Let's just roll the tape." The video from the seminar began to play on the dining room's big screen. Chase's voice boomed from the Bluetooth speaker. As a Harvard-trained physician, The silence that followed was volcanic. Veronica gasped. "That's a deep fake." "It's a live stream," I said. "From 3 days ago." I placed a thick stack of printouts on the table. "Here's where the money went. Bitcoin Empire Dio. Online poker. And this," I pulled out one final page, "is a receipt for $3,200 to pay influencers to comment things like Dr. Millard saved my aunt's life." Chase shot up. "You went through the truth." I interrupted. "Yeah, I did." Daniel turned slowly, voice hoarse. "If you didn't go to med school, where did the money go?" Nobody spoke. Raina, always quiet Raina, had just detonated a nuke at Sunday brunch. I looked at my stepbrother and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You stole from a dying woman and used her sacrifice to fund crypto scams, weekend orgies, and fake diplomas. You're not a doctor, Chase. You're just another con artist in a family full of them." Veronica grabbed Chase's arm. "Let's go. This isn't the place." He pulled away, red-faced and trembling. But he had no comeback. I laid the final printout down flat on the white linen tablecloth. In bold, Chase Millard, $19,980 paid to Bitsanium.io. Someone behind me murmured, "So this is where the legacy went." There was no applause this time. Just tension thick enough to cut with my mother's steak knife. That evening, back in my office, Jennifer's text pinged. The DA's office just opened a case file. Count 1, financial elder abuse. Count 2, fraud. Wanna add forgery next? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked up at the wall above my desk. There hung the framed photo of my mother, Serena Hollis, taken the day before she entered hospice. Her smile, tired but still luminous, watched over me. I whispered, "We're just getting started, Mom." They called her a philanthropist. I call her a parasite, feeding off a dying woman's silence. The gala sparkled like every lie Veronica had ever told. Gold-trimmed invitations, violin quartets, branded champagne flutes. The ballroom at the Alden Foundation glowed with soft lavender light, casting a saintly hue over everything. Guests in tuxedos sipped from crystal glasses, unaware that the night's honoree was about to be eulogized by me. And at the center of it all stood Veronica Hollis, my stepmother. Hair swept into a glossy chignon, a silver gown hugging her frame. She took the stage like a duchess returned to court. "We protect the dignity of the dying," she said into the microphone. "That is the mission of the Alden Foundation. Because when the end comes, it should be met with care, with compassion, and above all, with honesty." Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Donors smiled. The stage lights dimmed elegantly behind her, and a glowing slideshow began playing behind the podium. Photos of elderly patients smiling, holding hands, testimonials written in looping cursive fonts. Strings swelled in the background. It was pure performance. But I stood at the edge of the ballroom, waiting for the lights to shift, waiting to destroy her legacy, just like she destroyed my mother's. A memory forced its way to the surface. 2 years ago, my mother slumped in a hospital recliner, half conscious. A doctor asked about her financial access, and Veronica waved him off with a smile. "She won't be needing access to her accounts anymore," she said, like it was obvious. I looked at my mother then, eyes unfocused, hand limp on the blanket, and knew she understood more than she could say.
She looked at me,
and then looked away. Tonight, I would speak for her. Backstage, Jennifer and I had spent hours preparing. We transformed my legal office into a war room days earlier, diagrams, printouts, even video recon from hospice staff. One of our junior paralegals sourced a retired nurse who confirmed Veronica had bypassed proper consent protocols. We even rehearsed the timing. "Slide 1 exactly 10 seconds in," Jennifer had said. "And you?" I'd asked. "I'll be in the crowd filming. Live stream. The world needs to see this." The moment Veronica stepped back from the podium, I moved. I walked to the center aisle, holding a black tablet in one hand and a folder in the other. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "Let's see how you protected Serena Hollis," I said. The spotlight snapped from the podium to me. The music stopped mid-note. All eyes turned. I tapped the tablet. The projector flickered. Up on the screen, a scanned document labeled General Power of Attorney, Serena Hollis. Date: 6 days before her death. Signature: shaky, slanted. Witness: a retired tennis partner of Veronica's. Notary absent. Gasps scattered through the room. Then came the next slide. A physician's note dated the same day. Patient is heavily sedated.
disoriented,
Unable to give coherent responses. Silence stretched. I turned one more page. A video. Grainy, but clear. Veronica, my stepmother, stood beside my mother's hospice bed. She whispered to a nurse, slid a pen into the hand of a barely conscious woman, nodded. "That's not consent," I said. "That's coercion." The crowd began to shift. Whispers.
frowns.
Someone lowered a wine glass mid-sip. Veronica stepped forward, laughing. "This is outrageous. Fabricated." A woman near the stage leaned toward her date. "Isn't her stepdaughter a lawyer?" Another whispered, "This is being streamed right now. It's all over Twitter." I walked slowly to the stage. In the last 6 months of my mother's life, Over $80,000 was withdrawn under that power of attorney, I said. Money meant for her care, redirected to Veronica's personal foundation accounts. A man in the back raised his phone. Are you live streaming this? Veronica barked. He didn't answer. I stepped up beside her. This isn't a gala, I said, voice steady. It's a funeral. For your fake legacy. Gasps again. Someone knocked over a wine flute. Another walked out. I handed a printed letter to the event coordinator. It was stamped and signed by the Alden Foundation's Board of Trustees. Effective immediately, Veronica Hollis is suspended from the executive committee pending ethics review. I read aloud. Formal investigation into misuse of hospice-linked donations will follow. Veronica's hands trembled. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. You built your name on stolen grace, I told her. On a dying woman's silence. But she has a voice now. I turned to the crowd. It's mine. Flashbulbs exploded like gunshots. Reporters pushed forward. One shouted, Miss Hollis, can we get a statement? Veronica didn't respond. She turned and walked off stage, Chase scrambling after her. Daniel stayed seated, face pale and motionless. Then, quietly, he stood, walked to the exit, leaving behind his untouched glass of wine. The gala collapsed into chaos. Back in my office that night, Jennifer forwarded me a tip submitted through our firm's encrypted email portal. I worked at the hospice. It read, I saw what Veronica did. I'm ready to testify. 3 hours later, another notification arrived. Veronica, now pacing inside her Beacon Hill kitchen, tore open a thick cream-colored envelope from the IRS. Inside, notice of audit. All personal donations to the Alden Foundation under review. Chase stood at the kitchen island, frozen. Should I pack a bag? He asked. Veronica didn't look up. Her voice dropped, sharp and panicked. This is war. You have 2 options. Write me a check, or I write your names into the criminal docket. The words echoed in my head as I stood in the hallway outside the conference room. Through the frosted glass, I could already make out silhouettes. Daniel adjusting his cufflinks, Veronica checking her lipstick in a compact mirror, Chase hunched like a scolded child. Inside, the air was cold.
Purposefully so.
The boardroom of Walker, Brennan, and King didn't offer comfort. It offered clarity. A long glass table, leather chairs, one black camera quietly recording from the ceiling corner. The kind of room where fortunes ended and empires were dismantled by paragraph 14, subsection B. Jennifer Chin sat near the wall, silent, watching. I remembered my mother's hand in mine, that final week. She was so weak her words were barely audible. They'll try to silence you with guilt, she'd whispered. Don't let them. Make them regret underestimating my daughter. And I would. Let's begin, I said, taking my seat. Daniel forced a smile. Raina, I think we can talk about this calmly. I returned a smile that didn't reach my eyes. You've had weeks to talk. Today we settle. Veronica folded her arms. This should have stayed within the family. Should have, I echoed. But you made it federal. Jennifer slid a folder across the table. For the record, Ms. Hollis has provided full documentation supporting the following allegations. I flipped open the folder and began reading. Count 1. Forgery of legal documents, including but not limited to financial power of attorney, estate directives, and beneficiary amendments. I turned a page. Count 2. Elder abuse, financial manipulation while the victim was under sedation, deemed medically incompetent. Another page. Count 3. Fraud. Specifically, transferring funds from Serena Hollis's accounts without her knowledge or legal consent. Daniel looked pale. Chase swallowed. Veronica, remained still, though I could see her foot bouncing under the table. I hit play on the tablet. The hospice nurse appeared on screen. Veronica Hollis asked me to hold Serena's hand around the pen. She told me, "She can't sign today, but just help guide her." Serena didn't speak, just stared at the ceiling. I let that sit. Then I pulled out the final document, the one that mattered most. The civil restitution agreement, I said, outlined and itemized. I slid it to Daniel. "You will repay the full $150,000 of the insurance payout, plus $30,000 in unauthorized withdrawals, plus $6,500 interest, plus $50,000 in emotional damages, plus $20,000 in legal fees." Chase's mouth dropped. He stammered. "That's robbery." "No," I replied. "That's justice. With interest." Veronica gripped the table. "We were just trying to protect the family." I placed a pen at the center of the table. "You failed the only family that mattered." They didn't speak. "Failure to sign today," Jennifer added, "will result in the immediate filing of criminal charges in Suffolk County, including 2 federal counts for Veronica. Mr. Millard may be subject to immigration inquiry due to student visa fraud. Mr. Hollis, possible civil conspiracy charges." The room went silent. I reached into my blazer and pulled out my mother's pen, the one she gave me when I passed the bar. I uncapped it and set it down in front of Daniel. "You didn't just steal money," I said softly. "You stole her last hope. And now I'm taking it back with interest." Daniel picked up the pen. His hand trembled. He looked at the paper, then at me. I didn't blink. Veronica wiped at her cheek. Chase didn't lift his head. The pen scratched slowly across the bottom of the page. One signature, then another, and another. Jennifer collected the pages, clipped them together, and tapped them neatly against the table. "Agreement confirmed," she said. I stood. "Good choice," I said, slipping the pen back into my pocket. "And don't worry, I'll mail you a receipt." I walked toward the door. As I opened it, the words I'd waited to see for years lit up my phone. Certified payment of $256,500 confirmed. Funds available. I stepped into the cold Boston air and looked up. Clouds curled like breath over the skyline. "One more step, Mom," I whispered. "One more." They took her money. I built her legacy. The polished brass letters on the glass door read, "Hollis Legal, Estate and Elder Protection." Inside, the office smelled of fresh wood and new beginnings. A small stack of brochures about elder abuse and asset protection sat neatly on the polished oak reception desk. Above the couch, framed in gold, was my mother's photograph, Serena Hollis, smiling softly, her spirit watching over us. On the wall behind my desk hung a plaque with words I'd lived by since law school. Law is not revenge. Law is protection. I remembered the days I'd sat by my mother's bedside, turning down an internship at a prestigious law firm to care for her. She squeezed my hand weakly and whispered, "One day, they'll understand what kind of woman I raised." Today, I was that woman. In the quiet moments after the morning rush, I sat alone at my desk. The sunlight poured through the large windows, casting long shadows across the walls. I opened the leather-bound notebook my mother had left me, the one I treasured most. Flipping slowly to the last page, my eyes lingered on her familiar handwriting. "Justice is truth in action. Make them remember your name, baby girl." Her words wrapped around me like a warm embrace, reminding me why I fought, why I still must. My first client arrived just after 9. Mrs. Eleanor Petrov, 73, shuffling slowly, with a fragile smile. She clutched a plastic folder filled with hospital records, a worn copy of a deed, and a letter written in her son's handwriting to restructure family assets. The same son who'd left her alone in a rehab center while moving the title of her home into his name. I welcomed her with a gentle smile. "You don't need to be scared anymore," I said softly. Her eyes welled up. In that moment, I saw my mother again, frail, dismissed, waiting for someone to stand up for her. The courtroom was packed the next day. I presented the judge with a timeline of events, meticulously pieced together. Eleanor had broken her hip and was suffering mild cognitive decline. During this vulnerable time, her son had visited her only once to secure her signature on papers he claimed were insurance documents. He told her it was an insurance form. I told the courtroom. It was actually the deed to her home of 42 years. Opposing counsel faltered. The son stared daggers at me. I remained calm. Within 10 minutes, the judge ordered the property title returned to Mrs. Petrov. He added a note suggesting further investigation into potential criminal acts. As the courtroom emptied, Eleanor grasped my hand tightly. "You're the lawyer I wish I'd met 10 years ago." Her words warmed me, but my smile remained humble. That evening, I walked alone through the city cemetery gates, clutching a bouquet of white roses, my mother's favorite. I knelt beside her headstone engraved with her name and title. Serena Hollis, beloved mother, fierce protector, eternal inspiration. I laid down the flowers, whispering, "We did it. 53 lives protected. And counting." The wind whispered through the trees, as if affirming the promise. Back at the office, my assistant was finishing the installation of our firm's final sign: elder abuse, asset protection, emergency claims. The inbox was already filling with cases. A soft knock announced the arrival of a young woman, nervous but determined. She held a printout of our viral gala video exposing Veronica's crimes. "I saw what you did," she said, voice trembling with hope. "I'm studying pre-law. Do you take interns?" Her eyes reminded me of my younger self. Curious, fiery, unyielding. I nodded slowly. My mom once gave me a chance. Now it's my turn to pay it forward. Minutes later, the office phone rang. I picked up without hesitation. "Hollis Legal," I said. "How can I protect you today?" The girl watched me, eyes wide. Outside, the morning sun gleamed on the new sign. That night, long after the office emptied, I opened my mother's leather-bound notebook, the one she left for me. On the last page, in her familiar handwriting, were words I had memorized. "Justice is truth in action. Make them remember your name, baby girl." I smiled. Not the sharp smile I wore in court, but the soft one reserved just for her. The office lights dimmed. I grabbed my coat. As I moved to leave, the door opened quietly behind me. It was a call. The soft ring echoed in the empty room. I hesitated before answering. "My mom gave me a shot once," I said. "Now it's my turn to pay it forward." After the storm of betrayal and injustice, I stand here restored, free, dignified, and stronger than ever. Justice isn't just a word. It's a promise fulfilled, a legacy reclaimed from those who thought silence meant surrender. What I learned is simple yet profound. Greed destroys families, but courage to fight for what's right rebuilds them stronger. If you've ever been wronged or betrayed, share your story below, because in standing together, we find our true power. What lessons have your struggles taught you? Let's talk and heal as a community.